Open your mind.
Good evening and welcome to Open Your Mind Internet Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 28th of October 2012 and we're using our new player. So we'd like to have some feedback from our listeners on what you think, the quality and everything else. If you can, let us know. We'll be very interested. No more Ustream, hopefully. No more adverts. Just straight audio from the actual show. So that's the plan of attack. Now, we have a very, very busy show tonight, so we'll get cracking with the communication, Steve.
Yes, communication channels are as follow: info@oymireland.com for your emails. We also have the guest book on the website where you can leave a message for this generation and future generations. We also have the chat box, the chat facility on the website as well, where you can log in, leave some feedback or questions for our guests. You can have a chit-chat with the rest of the listeners who are logged in. And if you want to get there, just navigate your way to oymireland.com/OYM chat, and that will get you there. And if you'd like to give us a call on the landline, you can.
Give us a call on 046 927 1212.
046 927 1212. If you're ringing in from outside Republic of Ireland, it'll be 00353 in front of that. Alan.
Cheers, Steve. Okay, onwards and upwards. Okay, our guests, we have a range of guests on the show tonight. Our first guest is going to be William Stewart. He's an author of a book called 9/11 to Armageddon. Then we're going to be calling Sheamus Sherlock, who is kind of protecting his property and barricaded himself in to stop the bank evicting him from his property. And then we'll have Simon from One World Chronicle and Dave Darby from the Sovereign Independent after that. So it's going to be a packed show, loads of information. So without further ado, let's get through the bits and pieces that we normally talk about during the week, and then we'll take it from there. So, Steve, if you want to take number one on the unscripted script.
Number one on the unscripted script is don't forget to register. If you want to help us, please send in a donation, or if there's an ad on our site, on the website, that you happen to like, takes your fancy or catches your eye, give it a click. You don't have to buy anything or do anything else other than click the ad, and that will send a couple of cents into the OYM coffers. So it's a way of making a donation without actually having to put your hand in your pocket.
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole idea. And you're helping us at the same time. Now, we got a call during the week by a chap who noticed a few cars with a bumper sticker on it. And he thought it was a brilliant idea with I'm Awake on the back. So he is part financing the reprinting of the bumper stickers, and he wants to actually get the bumper stickers out there. And I believe we'll talk to Dave later on about this, but I believe in the December issue of the Sovereign Independent, you want to put a sticker with each copy. Apparently, I think. But we'll just confirm it. I could be wrong, but we'll just confirm it. But he actually has donated some money towards the printing costs. So what we need to do is ask for people, if you can afford it, to donate to the bumper sticker campaign so we can get the bumper stickers. We want to do a nationwide campaign. And the reason why is, one, if people have stickers on the car, you know they're awake, so you could talk to them about what's going on. And number two, if people see your sticker and don't know what it is, you could start a conversation with them and tell them what it is, what it means by I'm Awake. So all in all, very good idea, which is the original idea and why we did this bumper stickers at the start.
Wasn't that kind of interesting? Because we ran that little, I won't say it was a campaign, but it was an idea. We ran with it. We got some stickers printed. People subscribed, or well, they didn't subscribe. They donated. What was it? I think we done 5 for 5, and people took them. Oh, actually, yeah. I'm just looking in the latest issue of the Sovindo. It's actually in there. Wow. Happy days, I feel famous now. But yeah, we ran the 5 for 5, I think it was €5 for 5 stickers. We got a good load of them printed. They kind of flew out the door, people took them, and that was it. Like, we thought, okay, well, that was it, and, we didn't think any more about it until, say, Alan got the email during the week that someone had noticed, not one, but a couple of cars. I think it was a couple in and around County Meath and one up across the border. Was it across the border up in the north of Ireland? And he just wondered what the hell these stickers were, what they meant.
So we got in touch with me through Dave at Sovereign Independent, and we told him all about it, and he thought it was a fantastic idea to, as a campaign nationwide. So he's donated a few quid for the reprinting of the stickers. So if you can help us to raise funds for that, that would be fantastic. Because the more people are aware of what's going on, the more we can do. So Steve's just having a look at that now.
Yeah, just anyone who's interested, it's just oymireland.com/stickers, and you can read the article there. It's a very nice article.
So, okay, onwards and upwards. Now, a lot of people are going to be getting a letter in the post. If you haven't got it, you're going to get it from the household charge people. And basically they're saying that if you haven't paid the household charge, you have to pay the household charge, and there might be a little waiver. Blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. So I did have a talk with Harry during the week from We the People, and I just confirmed with Harry what should people do. And Harry suggested RTS, which is return to sender. Put the sticker on it and seal it up and send it back to them. Thank you very much, but we do not want a contract. Yeah,
because I think basically, there's a few different kind of viewpoints on this. One is if you return to sender with the return to sender sticker that's available for download. I think it's on OYM and it's also on TNS as well. If you use that sticker, then basically you're saying, I don't know who you are, I don't know what you want, I don't acknowledge you because I don't know who you are, so I'm just returning this back to you because I really don't know what you want, and that's it. But if you kind of they want you to register and say, well, it applies to me or it doesn't apply to me. But once you register, you've contracted, and then you've involved yourself in their game. You've acknowledged that you know who they are, and so it kind of the ball will start rolling from there. But once you return to sender, then you're not acknowledging their existence, and that seems to be the way to go in this instance. Exactly.
So just return to sender if you want to do that. Okay, and the last thing on the general list would be, we've all obviously heard in the news about the Hurricane Sandy coming in, going to hit the east coast of America shortly. And we talked about this. John Moore was on the show and Drake was on the show, and he said something's going to happen which will possibly affect the elections in America because Obama wants to stay in power, and everybody's talking about the possibility that HARP is being used to manipulate the weather pattern and Hurricane Sandy to hit the east coast of America. Now, John Moore was on a few weeks ago and he said they're moving all the equipment away from the east coast before we even knew about this hurricane. So there obviously something is in there, and we know the elections are around the corner. So it's just in canny that was talked about a few weeks ago on OYM, and this is happening now. We don't know how bad it's going to be, but apparently it's going to be. It's going to be. I think they haven't had something like this for over 100 years or something. It's going to be a tropical storm or something like that. So quite interesting. So we'll keep an eye out. It's going to hit the east coast tomorrow night, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, and if the elections are cancelled, because Obama will kind of step up and go, we have to stop the elections because I'm going to be your saviour. And that's the kind of general idea.
We were kind of saying that from what we had heard, that the word on the street was that, when the elections are coming up, there would be some event that would happen. Of course, I think we were all thinking, something to do with the army or violence, but it could be a storm.
Yeah, Andy here says, HARP, 3 hits, 3 direction, 1 big area. The chaos and death that is needed for the crisis to turn heads. That's right, Andy. We did see, I did see an article Alex Jones was talking about it, saying there's 3 different a 3-pronged attack they're going to try and do in America with the weather patterns. And there's an Alex Jones video about that, and it's going to be pretty bad. You keep an eye on that and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to fly through some stuff because obviously we're going to be stuck for time. So we want to give our guest. Our guest's going to be William Stewart, as I say. So we want to give William a good bit of time on the show. But there's a few things that we have to talk about and things that go on. So Steve, how's your week?
Fine. You're right. I know we're tight for time, so I mean, there's a couple of things going on. The most important is this upcoming referendum. I've been busy getting information and trying to condense it into its kind of as small as I can get it, to be completely honest, because there's a lot of people saying a lot of giving out a lot of information. So I think I can't remember now if it was Jim Carr don't know, but there was points on the internet during the week, and it was condensed down to 10 reasons why you should vote no. And I read them, and I thought, that actually sums it up beautifully. So I've been spreading this information around to friends and family. I've also printed it out, given it to people in work, and a few of them, like that, I would have given them information. So about maybe 4 or 5 weeks back, when I first kind of caught wind of what this referendum actually meant. So they were kind of looking at this information, and they were questioning it, and they were asking me some questions, and some believed it, some didn't. So when I got to 10 points, 10 reasons why, gave that to them, and to my surprise, 2 of the ladies that I work with, who, you know, they would have had conversations with me and believed half of what I said, you know, and would never do their own investigation or their own kind of footwork. But because both of them are mothers with young children, they seen this information, they read it anyway because, well, it is part of a referendum. They didn't like what was in it, so now they are going out and they're educating their friends and their family, and they're passing out. I was asked to print out some more of the 10-point bullet list. So they're passing that information out. So we're getting great feedback from that. We have until, I think is it the 10th of November? Am I getting that wrong? Am I the 10th?
Don't know what date it is.
It's in November.
Yeah.
I've 2 dates in my head, the 5th and the 10th, and I don't know why. But that's going to be coming up early November. So I think we need to all get more information out there to people who obviously need it, because if this goes through, if it's voted in, if you know, it means that article in the Constitution will be changed. And woe betide anyone who votes yes. That's all I'll say. I mean, it's nasty. The wording is nasty. How it's interpreted is also nasty, and it could mean that, you know, you end up all the parents out there, you end up being a caregiver to your child, and that's it. You put a toe out of line. You go on a protest or you do something silly, and then the government, the state decides, oh, you're an unfair parent, and that's it. Good night. Say goodbye to your children. They'll be taken off you. Anyway, that's kind of my week in a nutshell. So there's a few other things, but that's kind of what I'm focusing on at the moment, because it's important, and it's just around the corner. But how's your week?
Not too bad. Just a couple of things that went on. I went to the local Bank of Ireland. That's who I do my banking with, unfortunately. And what they're doing now, and I don't know whether other people have experienced this with the banks, is they're making people redundant, staff redundant, and they're opening just one cashier, maybe 2 if you're lucky. And you literally have to wait between 20 and 30 minutes to get served, because they're trying to force people into using the machine in the bank. So this is the new thing they're doing in the local community Bank of Ireland here, and I don't know whether around the country they're trying to do the same thing, which is quite interesting. Also, just out of interest, I did have a cheque come into me which bounced, and it was all sorted, but the bank have charged me €3.30, and I had nothing got to do with having the bounce cheque. So I got charged for the privilege of doing nothing. I didn't do anything. I was just given a cheque to cash, and they charged me $3.30. Isn't that really nice of them?
That was very nice of them.
Bloody banks. They should be all shot. The system has to come down. It should be collapsed. Right, okay, and let me see. Yeah, I went into a doctor's surgery. I went to pick up a prescription for a family member. And the waiting room was full of people. And I said, why are all these people in here? Why is it so busy? And they said, oh, they're all in there for the vaccine flu shots. And I felt like, you know, because it was a family member's surgery, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah. I was tempted just to stand up and say to everybody, are you sheeple or what? Why don't you just go and query what the vaccine is you've been given, instead of just sitting in and assuming that it's okay?
You know and I know, if you had got your little soapbox and done that and educated people and then left, they would have, everybody there would have went home and said, there was this lunatic in the surgery today. Yeah. No one would believe you.
No, nobody. All sheeple. Oh, it was unbelievable. It was like they were the sheep queuing in, going for the slaughter, and nobody was questioning, you know, about the vaccine, you know, because they just all believe. Unbelievable. And the other thing that's on the list is the €4 million of state aid to Uganda went missing. So, the fact that we really need the money over here in Ireland is irrelevant. We're still sending money over abroad, and 4 million has gone missing. Auditors from the Department of Foreign Affairs flew to the capital, Kampala, this morning to investigate the alleged misappropriation of funds, which was earmarked for education policies and tackling HIV and AIDS in the poorest regions. So, we have no money in the country, but yet we can give 4 million to other countries, and it's now gone missing. So somebody's obviously in, Mauritius with a nice big bank account with 4 million on it, and the Irish government are going, we don't know where it went to. So it's bad enough saying that we don't know who the bondholders are, but we're going to give them all these billions. But now we're giving 4 million to somebody in Uganda.
Generous Irish.
Unbelievable.
We are generous to a fault.
We are generous, aren't we?
But then again, look, we didn't give it. The government gave it. And then, look, we all know what's going on. They just they have us where they want us, basically.
Whatever happened to the sandwich and the cup of tea, rather than the 4 million? When somebody came in strange, but you have a cup of tea and you get and you do a sandwich. Forget about the 4 million. That's the Irish hospitality, the sandwich and the cup of tea.
Right, so what are you saying? We should send a flask of tea and and a patter of sandwiches to Uganda?
Exactly, yeah. Robbing baskets, I'd say, for the bankers anyway. And that's all.
Yeah, just one in there from Mick. Good evening, Mick. He says in his local chemist there's a vaccine poster up saying that the vaccine is the only protection against flu, which is obviously an outright lie. Says Mick, a well-nourished immune system will beat any flu. That's true.
Yeah, I totally agree. And apparently, if your alcohol seems to be quite good as well. I don't know what quantities, but,
Large quantities.
We play it by ear. Okay, we're going to bring in our guest now. Our guest is a chap called William Stewart, and he's the author of a book called 9/11 to Armageddon. Good evening, William. How are you doing?
Hello there. Hi.
How are you doing? William, before we actually get into talking about your book and everything else, give us a bit of background about who you are and how you got involved and why you wrote the book and stuff like that.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
No, sorry. I think we just had a little outage there.
Okay. We might have one or two internet problems. We had a little glitch earlier on regarding the internet speed, but
I don't think it's a glitch, Alan. I think they found us.
They found us. Okay, they're trying to get at William. Okay, William, give us while we have you on, give us a bit of background about yourself and how you got involved in writing the book.
Right. Well, I was at sea as a navigator, and I came ashore and worked in business and a bit of farming, and I've worked in the National Health Service as a head of department. And I did an early retirement, and I thought, well, what I'd like to do is research what on earth is going on in the world. It seems a very strange place to be. And so I started with banking, World War I and World War II, why those occurred, and previous wars, and then finally 9/11 to Armageddon. In other words, looking at 9/11 as a gateway into all the chaos that's going on in the Middle East. So it's basically a big project. It's taken about 15 years to write these books.
Okay, so, and you have 3 books, though. You don't have one, you have 3.
Yeah, 3. The World War I and World War II is actually being edited at the moment, and that should have been the second book. But I got so excited about 9/11 that I did that one first. But there will be 3 in a few weeks' time. There's 2 at the moment.
Okay, so, and is 9/11 to Armageddon out now at the moment for people to buy?
That's out at the moment, yes. You can get that quite easily from Amazon or from the publishers, and it's all there. It's up on the internet, so if you dial in William Stewart or 9/11 to Armageddon, it'll come your way. You'll see a long list of information now.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, William, take us through the actual book. Obviously, you started off with 9/11, and that was a pinnacle moment for the world. I mean, what happened there? It just on that day it changed the world. So yes. Tell us, how you started to write the book and your research from 9/11, and then bring us through to the modern day Middle East Armageddon that you mentioned.
Okay. Well, I wanted to find out where this aggressive political movement came from in the Middle East. It looks as though it's a religion. It is not a religion. The Muslim faith is a very peaceful faith, and they're ground people, generally speaking. but they've got something bad out there, and it was planted in Saudi Arabia in 1710. So I've got the banks or the bankers who planted it there. I have all the information about them. So when you look at the Middle East, there's something very nasty going on. It appears to be religion, but it isn't religion. It's actually politics. And that politics has created a series of lodges across the Middle East, and they're in real trouble because the quiet Muslim faith, or the Christian or the Jew, is being attacked by this process, which I have called in the book Hemphorism. Others will know it as Wahhabism, but of course there are people who have a faith in Wahhab and Wahhabism, so I've avoided using that word. So that's really where it began, and then in tracing this aggressive religion, I've then started to look at 9/11, because that was obviously a trigger into the Middle East, and quite clearly from those aggressive moments we have really basically war all the way across all those countries. So that's where I started. I wanted to know whether 9/11 was a genuine event, and I've written about the Twin Towers, Building 7 and the Pentagon, and I give my reasons for saying that thermite bombs were used, that they were blown up, that aircraft don't hurt buildings or harm them to the extent of bringing them down, and also about the crimes that are being concealed behind 9/11. That is several trillion pounds missing from the American budgets.
That was said the day, that was mentioned the day before 9/11.
Yes, it was. So it got buried in the dust and the rubble.
Yeah.
But aircraft and fire do not bring down steel buildings. So you have to start from the concept that they were blown apart, which has turned out to be so. One of the substances used was thermite, and there are various universities who have got samples taken from the buildings which shows that they were destroyed by thermite bombs. They turn steel into, just a series of holes and melt it, and so bring down the building. They actually melt steel, which was all observed. So I've given my reasons for it, and I've put in mention of all those four incidents. I've then looked to see what happened, because I reckon I know who did it. I then started to look at what happened in the Middle East, and all I can tell you is that, have you heard of the Trilateral Commission?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, well, the Trilateral Commission, the members who created it were all responsible for the Suez crisis. Do you remember when Britain was booted out of the Suez Canal?
That's
well,
right, yeah.
that's the start of it. These characters also met together in 1942 in the middle of World War II to plan the European Union, which was paid for by the CIA. 4 million, I think they put forward to get it going. But when you turn to Suez, you then see these characters at work, and I want to call them the pre-Trilateral Commission. When you move on to the Shah of Iran, who was removed from office, it's Mr. Ball of the Trilateral Commission, Rockefeller, and President Carter of Trilateral Commission, who are all involved. So you then move on to Afghanistan, and Rockefeller, who owns the Trilateral Commission, and his sidekick, Brzezinski, created world terrorism, paid for by the Rothschilds, and in you go into Afghanistan to attack the Russians. All of our terrorism, in fact, comes from the big bankers in America, who are being run from Europe. So often people they blame the 6 big bankers in America, but actually they should be looking a little bit further. And so you move on from this into the next sort of events, Iraq, and you discover the same people are involved, same group, and they're basically bankers in America who are trying to run the affairs of America and indeed the affairs of the world. So you then start to begin to look at what happened after Iraq, and you look at something like Libya, Same sort of problem, same sort of approach. This rebel, remember I talked about this ghastly religion, which I've called Hemphorism. Well, you see that being generated and pushed by the bankers in these countries, being funded, the arms being given to them. It's the same pattern in all the wars. So that's where I'm at. And then you come to Syria, of course, which is a recent crisis. And there you've got these very violent rebels who are basically attacking a sovereign nation, and they're being funded by the West and encouraged by the West in what they are doing. Nobody's got a good thing to say about Assad, but all of the central characters in this, the rulers of nations, Gaddafi, and so on, they are all very good at controlling and containing what we might call the Muslim Brotherhood. They've all gone, and so now you've got this wretched religion on the loose, as it were.
And of course, looking at what's going on, you're saying the rebels, but there's been reports that actually these rebels are not Syrian. They're actually brought in from other countries.
That's correct. When you go back to what happened in 1710, that's the creation of what I call Hemphorism. You've got a violent kind of political system that's pretending to be a religion, which is owned by the bankers. If you want to know who created Wahhabism, or if you like, Hemphorism, you've got to start looking at the American bankers. And the organizations that set off the American Civil War and set off the French Revolution, these groups were moved into Saudi Arabia in 1710, so that you've got a connection between earlier wars and the one that's going on, creating this nasty religion. It actually set off World War I, and people perhaps don't know that, but it was the Muslim Brotherhood that wrecked the Ottoman Empire and set up enough waves to cause the troubles we've seen. So you've got, on the one hand, you've got these same bankers creating the European Union, and you've got the same ones who created the Russian Revolution, or the other wars, if you want to talk about those, who are now singling out the Middle East for this chaotic mess that we see around us. It's incredible that, I mean, this is going back centuries. It really is going back such a long time. How they've organised all this, and it's, you know. They do go back. They started in the Roman Empire, and after that, the first sort of central bank was set up in close to 700 AD. And it's that central bank, if you go back and trace it, because I wanted to do this with banking anyway. And so I began to research this and trace them all the way through from the Eastern Mediterranean up into Geneva in Switzerland, across into the Dutch banks. Then they created the Bank of England. Then they moved on America with the two wars that America's had, which were caused for them. And they created the Federal Reserve System, which is a Swiss bank. And the European Central Bank, which was set up by people who were working within the Bank of International Settlements and the American Federal Reserve. So you see, you've got lots of connections, and the names are always the same. The way they behave is always the same. It never changes. Yeah,
and the same people are controlling everything. Now we're going to. William, we're going to be kind of bouncing around on topics here, because our listeners, we have a chat facility, and our listeners will be asking questions through the chat. And we already have a couple of questions come in there. So I'll pass you over to Steve. Steve, you want to ask that question?
Yeah, William, a question in here from Mike. And Mike wants to know, he says, can you ask your guest his views on Dr. Judy Wood's theory about free energy weapons bringing down the towers?
About...
Sorry, he's wondering about Dr. Judy Woods and her theory about free energy weapons bringing down the towers. Something called dustification. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not too familiar with the phrases there. I mean, I can tell you how the Twin Towers were brought down. White vans turned up at 3 o'clock in the morning for 2 weeks as the explosives were laid, and thermite, which is people don't have it. I mean, the American military has it, but probably nobody else, or perhaps one or two people. Thermite was used to melt the steel. They blew out the ground floor so that the building could come down into its own footprint.
The same is true of Building 7, which was a classic sort of demolition. So I'm not quite sure where his question is leading to or how much I should know to answer it. But from my own point of view, this was, explosives, and it wasn't aircraft.
Yeah, no, I think that he was wondering about this doctor and her theory. Seemingly there are some weapons that are out there that can just turn metals into complete dust. But it's like I haven't heard of it. But if I may say about the thermite or the nanothermite, I do recall. I think it was a couple of years back. I did see a documentary. Well, it wasn't a documentary. Sorry, it was one of the programs on TV, Mythbusters, and they actually had nanothermite, and they done a little demonstration on it. And it is, as you say, it is. It just turns metal into liquid. It may as well be hot molten lava.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And you get a picture in some of the films of the event. You see the metal pouring down, but the workers who were working on the buildings also reported it, molten metal and metal welding itself together, and metal when it was dug up from the ground catching fire and going off in flames. So it was definitely what I say it was, no question about it. But I mean, if he has an interesting theory or it can be backed up in some way, why not? There were two kinds of explosives certainly used, one to break up the floors of the building and the other one to bring it right the way down. And we know, reported by a member of the CIA anyway, that these explosives were laid over a period of about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we heard that as well. I think someone who did research found out that the security was also removed from the building, so they, and I think sniffer dogs, they were taken out as well, weren't they?
I think we'd have to have a look at the evidence. I haven't seen the evidence from Dr. Julie Wood regarding energy-based weapons.
Although, we would look at it.
We would definitely have a look at it. I wouldn't put it past the American government having that kind of technology. It wouldn't surprise me in the least. Whether it was used for 9/11, I don't know. Again, we have to look at Dr. Judy Woods and have a listen to what she says. The likes of the 9/11 movement, like the architects for 9/11 against, I forget the chap's name, who's the chap who talks about that. Do you remember?
Makes two of us.
Okay, you don't remember either.
No, I don't.
One of our listeners will probably remember his name. But he's an architect, and he talks about actually the 9/11 and basically what happened. I don't think he talks about the energy weapon though, so I think that's something we have to look at. But let's move on from there, William, and let's talk about the whole kind of. We were talking about, you were saying the Muslim Brotherhood and what happened, and they were putting the banks in place, the central banks, and it's all controlled by the same people. Carry on from there.
Well, these people have caused a great deal of trouble, and between 1150 and 1340 they bankrupted Europe and they bankrupted Britain. I don't know if that sounds familiar, but it was the kings of Europe and the Pope who actually drove them out of Europe and sent them back to Venice. And they came back again in 1600 with the British East India Company, and they were attacked by some brave politicians in 1700 to try to control them. They'd opened the Bank of England, which was causing wars. They were closed down, in fact, in 1874. So a second time, we got rid of them from this country, or controlled them largely by political pressure. But they did some pretty grim things in the way of slave trading, opium dealing, currency manipulation, bankrupting people, trading with sword in hand. Now, sorry to say, they came back in 1881 to Britain as, if you heard of Round Table, Chatham House, Royal Institute of International Affairs, that's them.
That's them, yeah.
Yeah, and they made very little obvious impression in Britain, but they were very strong by 1919, and they set up the American Round Table, which is a different story altogether, which runs into, a splinter of the CIA, runs into the Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderberg, and Trilateral Commission. And these two, the American link is linked to Britain by something called BAP, which is the British American Project. And that runs across into the ERT, which is the European Round Table. So what we've had a lot of trouble with in the past is back again, and it's operating across from America into Europe, up to Switzerland, and presumably connected still to Venice, where the original central bank came from. So when I'm talking about the past, I'm also, of course, talking about the present tense. You want to know where your bankruptcies come from, your chaotic mess, countries, borrowing too much and still borrowing too much and doing it again. You're dealing with what we might call Lombard banking. And it is them. They're incompetent and incapable of running affairs. But, of course, as soon as they get charged of something, down it falls. Now, they planned this European Union meeting together in Canada in 1942. And I've put all that in the book, which is, it's in The Great European Secret. It's in 9/11 to Armageddon as well. What they got up to, who they were, what they discussed. So, coming on to this banking, you've got several dodgy banks. You've got the World Bank, which needs looking into. You've got the Bank of International Settlements, which paid for Hitler. It's called Hitler's Bank. And it melted down the gold teeth of the Jews, and that's where a lot of their gold comes from. They stole gold from all over Europe and only gave, I think, about 2 million back or something like that. They kept the rest. So you've got the Bank of International Settlements. You've got the Federal Reserve System in America, which was opened in by stealth, both opened by J.P. Morgan, who's one of the 6 bankers we're talking about. And you've got the European Central Bank, which was opened by members from both the Federal Reserve System and the Bank of International Settlements. So what you've got is a mess in our banking arrangements, money disappearing, too much paper money, not enough assets of gold and silver and value in the banks. And then you've got these particular banks in the background, and so you've got politicians waltzing around telling us that it's all been dealt with. In fact, none of it's been dealt with because they haven't dealt with the big banks concerned. The Bank of International Settlement, for instance, fixes all our interest rates, yours and mine. 90% or 85% or 90% of European banking issues go through that particular bank, and it funded Hitler. They wanted to close it down in 1945, and the president said it has to be closed down for war crimes, but you'll notice it's still open. So we're dealing with the old untouchables.
And how come? I mean, I just want to acknowledge a couple of people, Duck Dodgers and Alan Sovman from TNS. Thanks, guys. The architect's name is Richard Gage on 9/11, who talked about all that stuff. Thanks, guys, in TNS. Obviously, they tried to get in before, and they were caught and stopped from doing it. How did they manage to do it now? How did they get a foothold in this time?
Well, it's done with money, power, stealth, secret society. They run a secret society which originally was called the Eleusinian Mystery Religion. Now it's called Masonry, Red Masonry, Templar Masonry. It's not the same thing as Freemasonry, but they've got these secret lodges. And they draw to themselves the industrial military complex. So in other words, if you've got somebody with no morals at all who's running a company and wants to make a lot of money and doesn't care how it's made, then he gets drawn into the banks and gets access to the secret lodges so that a lot of things can go on without anybody finding out about it. And they quietly build up. They subvert. So, for instance, the Council of Foreign Relations in America tends to control most of the or a large number of important personnel in America. They join, they're sucked into it, and then you find that the bankers, not the president, but the bankers are largely controlling things. That's how it's done. As I say, the whole of the European Union, all of that was planned by a Lombard agent in 1837, and then they operated in 120 years. So you add 120 years to that, you come out to 1957, And there you've got the various meetings of Rome setting up the European Union, which was planned in detail, first of all in Canada, and secondly on St. Simon's Island in the States somewhere in 1957. So you can find those meetings, you can find how they did it. Basically, they created a fear of communism. They created themselves the Cold War, which was quite unnecessary. And they got the Europeans to give up their sovereignty and to huddle together for safety. And that's how they did it. Basically, they're still playing the same communist card today.
It's incredible. Have you heard, just out of curiosity, there's a question here by one of our listeners. Have you heard of MPE, the mathematically perfected economy?
No, I haven't.
Right.
No, that's entirely new to me.
Okay, it might be an idea if you have a look at that. That's a chap called Mike Montagna, who we've had Mike on the show, and basically to kind of keep it very simple, it's the current system without paying interest. Because the interest doesn't exist and never has existed with bankings, and that's half the problem. That's why we have the problem. And as you know, some religions don't actually, have usury, in the religion. Yeah.
Yes, I mean one of the reasons you've got a huge problems is because the taking the Federal Reserve System itself alone in America, it's a Swiss bank actually, it's not even American, and it's put them into so much debt that 40% of their income tax is going to pay off the interest on the money that Americans owe. So how can you float an economy properly if 40% of the income tax is going straight into the Federal Reserve System? Those books have never been looked at. Congress is refusing to open the books.
Well, the fact that they're not allowing people to actually, for the Fed to be audited, it's a question mark in itself that there must be something going on, because, a government has to be transparent. Now, we know the Fed is a privately owned company like the Bank of England and probably most of the central banks around the world. So, it's just amazing that people know this and the politicians know it, and I'm sure they do. But nothing is done about it. Nobody is afraid. They were all afraid to put their head above the pulpit. Now, I remember talking to somebody who, in the Truth Movement, who spoke to a politician. And the politician said to him, we are aware of certain things going on, but I have a job, I have a family, and I have a pension, and I'm not going to rock the boat. And that was his general, that was his approach to it.
Yes, I think that's very good. And I think the other thing that you need to take into account is the way people are trained. So if they start off in, let us say, Eton or somewhere, you've got to assume, probably quite wrongly, that they've been trained properly. But have they been taught these various slanted principles before ever they gain power? And are they then pushed into power? So you've got a sort of hierarchy around the place that probably is not very good for us. I call them in the book smooth men, but you know what I mean.
Definitely, and the gas thing is with this, these politicians are indoctrinated through their education system, then they're brought into the parties and they're institutionalised.
Yes, that's also true. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just think of themselves, and they don't want to rock the boat, or they don't want to step out of line. We've had it over here with a guy called George Lee who joined the Fine Gael party, and he was only in it 9 months, and realised that no matter what he proposed or the bills he proposed, he just didn't get anywhere, and he decided to leave the party.
Yes.
That was a typical example of how it's institutionalised. Now, what's worrying is these people like Enda Kenny, who's our Prime Minister, or Taoiseach, what we call him over here, who's in charge.
That's just one of the names we call him.
That's one.
There are several others.
That's one of the names.
Right.
He's an ex-school teacher. Now, if I wanted somebody to run the country, I think I'd be getting somebody like maybe Peter Jones or Theo Paphitis, or a businessman who knows how to run a business. Not an ex-school teacher that doesn't have a clue what he's doing. And Cameron is the same. These are all, Cameron was involved in the Burlington Group, and he comes from a rich background, so does his wife. And he hasn't really probably done a hard day's work in his life. He doesn't know what it is to have austerity. And these people are in power. How do they know what it's like when people are struggling? And this is what we find. You know what it's like. You know what's going on. And obviously, there's loads of talk now with the Middle East that, we talked, when we had Drake on the show last week,
Right.
we talked about the white hats, and certain things are happening in the system to bring the cabal down. And the rumour is that because they're getting desperate and they're acting like a trapped rat, they want to have World War III, so they're going to use Israel to have a go at Syria maybe, and there's certain troop movements and ship movements in the Far East that they're all getting into place and they're all positioning at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is quite interesting. I mean, in fact, I have missed out of saying anything about it, but it's become very evident to me that they do want World War III in the Middle East. It was intended, even if their plans have to change, it was intended to clash Israel and Iran. And again, it is involving this nasty political religion. And so I've given my reasons for saying that this particular war was planned in 1881. Add on 120 years and you come to 9/11. And I've given my reasons really for saying that there's all this stupidity going on there is leading to the intention of winding people up to fight each other. So one of the reasons I put the book out early was because I was explaining World War III. I think that is still on the cards. Whether it happens or not is entirely on what happens in the near future. But they've been working pretty hard at it, and the bankers have done some pretty stupid things over there to encourage it to happen.
Yes, I'd just like to clarify that. Thank you, Dan and Michelle. I made an actual mistake there. I actually said about Kenny running the country. I forgot he doesn't run the country. Of course he doesn't. It's Peter Sutherland. He runs the country. And, David Cameron is the same thing. He's a puppet on a string, and there's people in the background that run him. There you go. I forgot about that. Directors on a stage, and they're controlled by the directors who were in the background pulling the strings. Sorry, made that obvious mistake there. I should have pulled myself up on that one. But World War III, well, there is talk about this, the nukes and everything else, and Israel have so many nukes available to them. A lot of them apparently provided by the US. That was very nice of them. And that can be confirmed by just looking at the actual receipt.
Yes.
And then we have obviously Palestine, which is probably concerned about all the nukes that Israel have. And then we have this stepping stone because we had Iraq, then we have Iran, then we now have Syria, and then it's going to be, well, they just want to conquer all the countries, put in their, this is the kind of modus operandi, because we had John Perkins on the show, who wrote the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and he said that's what they do. They go in, and if they can't bribe the president, they'll kill him, or else they'll send in the troops. Blow up the country and then send in the contractors like Halliburton, the Carlyle Group, make loads of money from the defence contracts and the rebuilding of the country, and then stick a central bank in. And this is what they do.
Yes, that's fair enough. And one of the things I'd add to that is that the war making, they are arming both sides. So in other words, the same company, the same group, is on both sides at once. So they make a vast amount of money from the killing fields. Having studied World War I and how it began, which is not what people are told, and World War II, which is very different and not what people were told, I have reason for saying that they are cruising around the Middle East for World War III. I hope they don't get it. But certainly, as far as I'm concerned, it's on the cards.
Sorry, William. I was just typing there too. They just wanted they had a query on the chat facility there. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're in very difficult times at the moment with all this austerity that's going on, all around Europe and obviously in America as well.
Well, yeah, you've got to ask how the austerity is affecting the bankers and their wealthy conferences and their limousines and all the rest of it. I'm very suspicious about all of it, really, to be honest with you.
We know we're experiencing the austerity here. And
the money's gone. The money's gone somewhere, hasn't it?
Yeah,
the rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting a lot poorer.
Well, I don't know whether you see. I was reading a story today, and it was just on the internet. It was reported. I don't know whether our listeners have seen the report, but a top executive from CNBC released a story about the 43 trillion money that was squandered and funneled into these top people.
Yeah.
And basically his kids, the babysitter of his 2 kids, stabbed the kids and apparently committed suicide herself. And later on that day, the actual article was pulled. Now,
Right.
if our listeners and yourself, if you haven't seen it, Google the actual story. It's an executive in CNBC who reported on the 43 trillion going missing or being funded to these criminal factions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden his 2 kids get stabbed by the babysitter and she commits suicide. Maybe MK Ultra, Manchurian candidate, I don't know. But it just seems that these things are beginning to happen where people now the other guy that ended up he either got killed, I think he got killed, I don't think he committed suicide, is the Bernie Madoff guy who actually got 150 years in jail for ripping off his pals of 64 billion or something. Well, apparently the guy who made loads of money out of that deal has apparently been killed as well. He's found dead. So all these things are going on in the background, and I don't know whether people are actually aware that these are going on. I tend to do a bit of kind of checking about and see what's happening. And maybe the cabal are panicking, I don't know, because of, you have to, I don't know about how close you are to the system, William, but there's so many people beginning to waking up now as to what's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been conversations on alternative radio, such as yourselves. There have been conversations going on between the United States and Britain as a program recently, so that the alternative sort of way of looking at life and the proper way of looking at it is beginning to grow and ascend. And a lot of what I've been talking about is supposed to be a secret, and a few years ago none of it would have been known, or very little of it would have been known. So they have every reason to panic. What's happened, of course, is that, as your listeners will know, these big banks, central banks, are private. The Bank of England has been reformed, I would say. How much has been reformed? Well, I hope a lot, but certainly it has been reformed. But there are banks that have never had any sort of reforming process at all. They're private banks, they're run by greedy people, and they're out of control. And if money was tied down properly in a country, if the government had access to everything that happens, the people had access to the government through their voting powers, none of this would be happening. But it's because you've got private banks and the usual greed and slaving and drug dealing and all the things that they got up to in the Central Bank of Venice, because you've got that, the thing is quietly going to pot.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think they're panicking, yes.
Yeah,
they have every reason to.
Yeah, with the amount of people waking up now, and we see it on a regular basis, even if it's only down to somebody not being happy with a household charge or a tax, and they're getting fed up with the bankers. I mean, even now, what I said earlier on the show about even my local branch of the bank, what they're doing is, when you go in there, you're queuing for 20 to 30 minutes. They only open one counter, if not two. And then they're charging you they charged me a fee for a bounce check, which wasn't even my fault. So that's extortion as far as I'm concerned, because it was nothing got to do with me, but they're extorting money from me and charging me that fee. So and I think people are getting fed up. So the sooner we start seeing the MPE system kick in, or something to bring down the cabal, bring down the banking system. Now, we know that, mathematically, the financial system cannot continue because it's all debt-based money. So something has to give. Have you looked into that at all? William? Hello?
Oh, don't tell me we're going down again,
are we gone down again? We are having a little bit of problems with the internet with William. The connection does tend to go down and back up again, and we just got a few problems there, but we'll just... there's William. There you go, William. Yeah. We just lost you again on the old internet.
We vanished suddenly.
Okay. I was just touching base on the whole kind of system having to kind of collapse, because we know they're taking money out of fresh air. They're trying to send this out to the banks for liquidity, quantitative easing. But financially... And from a mathematical point of view, the system cannot continue because it's debt-based. And inflation, I mean, the value of the money keeps going down, and it can't keep on doing that.
No, that's completely correct. And when they first created the Dutch banks, which then created the Bank of England, which of course, as I say, is reformed. But when they created that, they introduced paper money, promissory notes, and that was the start of really the rot. People have pretended to have gold or silver or value behind the money, behind the paper money. It's turning out that, of course, there isn't value behind it, and so what you've got is a chaotic situation developing where the banks just don't have proper resources. The European Union is a problem in itself in that they've drawn together countries that can't work together. Because the people behave differently and have different aspirations and all the rest of it. So it doesn't match up properly. But the quantitative easing and that sort of thing is just stealing from the British or Irish or whoever it may be taxpayer, because it devalues the currency yet again. The debt gets bigger. And it can't go on like that.
Well, it's definitely, it's finite. It's going to end. And I did see somebody on a video talk about this, and he actually said, and I thought it was a good idea, what you have in your pocket, that piece of paper, is a discount voucher. And we're swapping discount vouchers because it has no value. It's a promise to pay. So that money in your pocket actually it has no value. It's like a discount voucher, but because we accept it we put some value on it. That's our perception on it. That's it. That's why it works.
Yes, that's quite correct, and that's the sort of panic under the surface. That's why people are buying into precious metals or physical substances or fields or whatever it may be, because they reckon that the money they've got in their pocket is actually valueless. And it's only a matter of time before somebody owns up.
Exactly. Well, it's got more and more people are waking up to it. Steve?
Yeah, I have a question, William, has come in from Andy, and I'll just read it as it's written. Can you ask your guest if he knows money is created out of thin air, or if he believes in taxpayers' money?
Well, the paper money, I mean, the paper money on a ratio of 1 to 10 belonged to the Bank of England. So you had one piece of value, a bit of gold, and then you had 10 times its value in paper money, which was issued to everybody. That system has got out of control, and is no value in some of the banks, and some of the currencies are very, very shaky because there isn't enough gold to back up the currency itself. So the banks stop lending, and then they start quantitative easing and all the rest of it. But in the end, you've got the problem because there is no value in your promissory note. Now, I'm not quite sure of this. Again, your third question, I'm not quite sure of the slant of the question. But the taxpayer is obviously carrying the burden of this, and his money is becoming less and less valuable. If I paid 2 guineas today, just a couple of coins. I mean, what are they worth? £1,000 or 700, 800 pounds? I mean, 800 bits of paper. We are gradually sliding into money becoming more or less valueless, and that is the problem.
And a continuation from that question, that previous question, can you ask your guest if he believes that the cashless society may come to the globe in December 21st, 2012?
No, I don't think so. I think there's going to be countries going bankrupt. I think there's going to be a lot of trouble. Some of the countries that have been hoarding gold or buying it in recently, that's Germany, and one or two others, they're going to be more or less all right, but some of the countries are not going to be. I don't believe in a cashless society. I believe that money will become pretty valueless, and a lot of thinking has got to be done, and a lot of action's got to take place with these big international private banks. They've got to be dealt with because we don't need them. And the countries themselves have got to come back to policies with their people. The governments have got to get a grip of this. So I think there's a lot of working through going on, but I'm not sure that it's... I can see gold coming back as a reserve currency. I can see silver coming back as a reserve currency. And I can see it being traded quite openly in place of paper money. But I'm not sure that we're going to see the end of paper money or anything cataclysmic like that, because some of the countries have very sensibly retained their gold. If you remember, Mr. Brown and Mr. Blair sold half our gold.
I don't know whether Ireland has any gold or anything, but well, when we say cashless society, I think what we're talking about paper money. See, at the moment, if you say you go get petrol for your car, and you use your card, you put your card and they swipe the card and your card doesn't work for some reason, then you can put your hand in your pocket and take out your cash and give it to them. But they can't control, if you're doing cash deals, they can't monitor and track that. But if they take out the actual physical cash and have everything digital, which is what one of the banks over here did, they only accept, they don't use cash anymore. Everything's, everything's digital. Everything has to be got to do with credit cards and checks. It's all trackable. There's no physical cash. National Westminster Bank, I think it was.
No, National Irish.
National Irish Bank.
Yeah.
That actually did that. And this is where the banks are going to go, because that means that when you buy something, it'll be tracked. And if you have RFID in your goods, they'll know what you bought. They'll know how much items you have in your fridge. And so if you do any wheeling and dealing with the local farmer, and you get eggs off them, they'll know whether, where'd you get these eggs? You didn't buy them from the shop, so you must have been doing the black market, so you can't do that and we're going to arrest you. I mean, this is the whole, 666, number of the beast on your hand. This is the kind of system they want. They want the microchip culture. And we know already that this is happening in certain places. And it's the totalitarian tiptoe, as they say. Bit by bit, little by little, they're bringing it in. So I'm just hoping that the system will actually come down before it gets to that.
Right. Well, what you're talking about, or maybe talking about, is special drawing rights, which is an international world currency, which they've been trying to get. But the special drawing rights, which used to be based upon Swiss gold, is now based upon purely paper. I mean, it's a paper currency. So I think that's going to fail. I don't think that system is going to run too long. And I don't think they're bright enough to run it anyway. So there's my opinion, that those countries that have got assets behind their currency are going to do reasonably okay. They're going to have a rough time, but they're going to be okay. Those countries that haven't got physical assets behind their paper are going to be in significant trouble. I don't believe the international bankers and the private central banks are going to manage to operate a world currency for very long, if they do try.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work either. I think they're gonna. I mean, they're having difficulty now with the euro, and they want to bring in a global currency. Now, there was a mention on the prisoner on TNS Chat talked about everything is going private. Now, I think what he means by that, and I can understand this, in the corporate world, when you want to cut back on certain things, you outsource, and then you can negotiate contracts to get the best contract. And the idea is that you can give the same quality service but at a cheaper price. But it doesn't always work that way, to be honest with you.
Well, it's one of the key words is synergy, or Marburg in America, or common purpose in Britain. I think you and Ireland would probably come under synergy, and it's the right-wing banker running the peasant commune. And if you notice, the assets of the people keep disappearing, and you get privatization. And there's a process whereby they have chief executive officers who are crooks and are put into certain businesses. You get the lesser individuals being trained up in management or one thing or another and join the CEO. And you get organizations which are then moving away from the public sector into the private sector, or organizations that are from their base dishonourable and liable to cause us problems. So you've got something going on whereby banker control is creeping in the place of government.
Exactly. And the one thing about the private company thing, which I was going to just mention there, was that I did see something during the week. I need to revisit it and read it again. But apparently what has been said is that governments are beginning to hire private companies and putting them and getting the private companies to issue do all the work of the councils. So
well, this is Go on. Yeah.
yeah, so this is what I was reading briefly during the week. So you won't have council workers working for the government. You'll have contracted companies doing the work of the government.
Yes, and the way they very often get into anything from the army to the air force to the navy to your businesses, the way they do it, of course, is to promise that they can make cuts. And they send their privatised people into the health service, for instance, and jobs start to disappear. People are persecuted and driven out. I've seen this myself. And then eventually they achieve their 25% or cut or whatever it is they promised. But of course they're then in charge, aren't they? You've then got a private structure beginning to run something that belongs to the people.
Yeah, and I think what the article was talking about when I read it was the fact that, well, because that's a private company, technically we do not have any contract with them, so we shouldn't be actually dealing with them. Even though they're working for the government, it's still null and void. And this was the whole idea of the article. Now I need to go back and redress it. I need to go back and have a look at it.
It's a very apt and very good article, I should think. It's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, it's exposing what's going on. And obviously the government are not telling people, because the government want to cut back, because we know with austerity, they have to cut back on the budget. So they're saying, well, what we'll do is outsource this section of the government. We make all these people, which is happening in Ireland. Loads of public sector workers have been made redundant, or they have been pensioned off. And they'll get in external contractors in who'll pitch for the business, and they will be doing the work. And so we'll probably have loads of government offices empty, because these contracts will be doing it the contractors will be doing it from their own premises.
Yes, I mean there is a case for a firm government to step in and stop all these privatisations and begin to discuss the way forward. I'm afraid it's becoming, quite alarming. Scotland, of course, independence is the same kind of thing. Somebody's after all their assets. They produced a King of Scotland in 1942. That was the European Council of Princes produced a King of Scotland. They're on about Bonnie Prince Charlie and Bannockburn and all that sort of stuff. But Bonnie Prince Charlie was being run by the French and was a mason, a red mason, that's an occult mason. His Scottish clans and followers, I don't think, had a clue about this. But they're after Scotland, and goodness knows what's going on there, and shaking the hand of Alex Salmon. I wouldn't personally do that. But yeah, I mean, this privatisation thing is getting big and getting dangerous.
And what do you think is going to happen with the Scotland? They want to have, obviously...
Well, they are past masters of something called the Young Movement. And if you notice that some of the banners in Scotland were Young Scots and Young Scotland. The Young Movement is coming along. It's got over 2 years, I think it is, to disrupt Scotland, to disrupt the relationship with England. And I've no doubt that they will be setting forth to do that right now. And, of course, if you put banking money, a lot of it, alongside these rebellions, then, of course, they tend to be quite successful. They've broken away country after country after country around the world. By now we should know about the Young Movement. There's been a Young Britain, there's been a Young France, a Young America. We ought to be considerably cautious and a good deal more sensible about all this. He should have been made to have a vote within, say, 3 months or something like that. But, of course, there's room for rabble-rousing.
There's a lot.
So who knows what's going to happen? I mean, they're going to have a chance at splitting the United Kingdom, and with it goes our proper defence. I mean, they want a central bank because the Bank of England won't function for them, so that's going to be the European Central Bank. And so on and so forth. I mean, it's absolutely ghastly. Then they'll start asset stripping, and you'll get American companies particularly coming in to mop up the whiskey distilleries and one thing or another, and their last stage is going to be considerably worse than their first. But they're going to become a hazard because, of course, anybody could take them over, and anything could happen then because they're right inside Britain.
That's incredible. It's just madness that this is going on. I think the reset button is going to have to be pressed on Gaia, Mother Earth. Yeah. And, we are like fleas on a host. and I think we should be shaken off, to be honest with you. But William,
Yes.
we've come to that time, and
Right.
we're sorry that is a kind of short interview, but we have a kind of packed show tonight. But
Yes,
I think we'll get you on again, maybe
All right,
maybe in a few weeks' time, and we'll do part 2, and
Okay.
hopefully we'll have a bit more time, and we'll go
Right.
into more detail about this, because it's very interesting.
Okay.
All this information we're talking about. But thanks for coming on. I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve will do the rundown with you.
Okay.
Okay, William, thanks very much. All I have
My
to
pleasure. Thank you.
all I have to do is the easy bit now, and ask you, can you give us the name of the books again, and also if you have any other means whereby people can find out more about you or more about your work, i.e., say a website or YouTube channel or something like that.
Yes, I'm on YouTube and also on a variety of different internet structures. So all they've got to do is dial up the Invisible College, 9/11 to Armageddon, or the Invisible College, The Great European Secret, and a little bit later on there'll be something about the Second World War. But that's the best way to approach it. Or go to Amazon and dial in William Stewart, and you'll get a certain amount of information there. But it's probably best to go via the internet.
Okay, well, that's brilliant. Well, William, stay with us there for a minute, and we'll just go to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com, CNSradio.ning.com and ICRadionetwork.com.
And we're back. That was the very, very short version of Land of Confusion, Genesis, and good information there from Walter. Hopefully he has inspired some people. Hopefully
Walter.
William, what did I say? Walter. Sorry, they just sound so similar. Walter, right, now you're picking holes in it. You could have just let it go. You could have just let it go and said nothing, but no.
I
right.
know.
But, thank you to our previous guest who had some good information. Right.
Okay.
Go on, I'm going to listen to everything you say now. I'm going to wait for it. I will be waiting for it.
Okay, I'll watch me P's and Q's and everything else. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring in Seamus now. Now, for people who don't know Seamus has barricaded his house, and he is obviously stopping the banks from evicting him from the house. But we're going to get more details off Seamus about this. Good evening, Seamus. How are you doing?
Good evening, and thank you for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. Now, the question that has been on my mind, Seamus, before we get down to the whole kind of bankers and eviction and everything else, I just want to give you credit for what you did. And what I originally heard was that there was a lot of people getting their ESB switched off, their power switched off, because they couldn't afford it. And you found a way to force the ESB to get them to switch the power back on. And also I heard
Hello?
that... Yeah, can you hear me? You there? You there, Seamus?
I think they found us.
Okay, I think what we'll do, Steve, is probably disconnect. We'll try and call him again, will we? Okay, we're going to try and disconnect. We're going to try and call him again. And basically, Seamus found a way to get the ESB...
Hello.
There you go. You there, Seamus?
Sorry, I don't know what happened there, my friend. Yes.
Okay,
Start
no
again,
problem.
Adam.
Okay, so I was just telling our listeners that you found a way to get the ESB to switch the power back on. And one of the things that was said was a politician, I think you spoke to a politician, and the ESB offered to give you free power if you kept your mouth shut, and you said that you wouldn't. And the politician said that you were mad, that you should have done it. And fair play to you. Tell us what you did and how you went about doing that.
Well, actually, really my whole life story was just one of being a self-employed man. I was in the fuel business. I used to harvest a lot of turf in the bog. And in 2006, an EU directive came in which literally closed my bog overnight. John Gormley signed it into law, and my bog, all commercial turf cutting ceased in the bog I was working. So I was promised a good compensation, but the compensation never came. So I struggled along hand to mouth for years, and in 2010 I was getting it very difficult to clear my ESB bill, and they threatened to cut me off. Now, in the meantime, my marriage had broken down. I had lost my children, but I had managed to get them back. So, as you can appreciate, the idea of my electricity being cut off, the first thing came into my head was, oh God, I'll probably lose my children again. So I pleaded with the ESB. I gave them a good bit of money, whatever money I had up front, and they told me no, they couldn't give me any more time. So I got up one morning and I went to Dublin. I changed myself to the main gate, the main entrance to the ESB in Dublin.
Okay, and tell us what happened from there.
Well, basically, I just went up with a chain. I locked myself to the main entrance gate, and I had a sign which said "Crucified by the ESB." And the ESB came out, wanted to talk, and I went in, had a cup of tea, and they said, "Listen, what's the story here?" And I said, at the time, there was 30 people a day being disconnected that were trying to pay their bill. I'm not talking about the people now that had no interest in paying anything. There was 30 people like myself a day that was desperately trying to pay every penny they could. The ESB said that was the law, there was no way around it. So I said I was going to stay chained there. So after lunch, they came out, asked me to go in again, and they said, "Look, we'll review your position. We won't cut you off for 3 weeks. Go away home for 3 weeks and see what you can come up with." So I went away home, and I spent the 3 weeks going around Ireland from town to town, and I collected over 7,000 signatures in 3 weeks.
Wow.
I went back to the ESB with the signatures, and I said, "I'm not going to stop this until you stop disconnecting people." So again, they let me go home, and they actually came down to County Limerick, a couple of executives from ESB, and they met me in a hotel in County Limerick, and they said, "We're after coming up with a plan. It's called the Household Budget Plan." And basically what that means is, for anybody listening, if you could pay a £5 a week more than you were using, they'd leave you your power. And it took me 9 months and 2 weeks to finally clear off my bill, but I was never disconnected, and I managed to do it through the Household Budget Plan, and at the moment there's over 240,000 people signed up to that plan.
Wow, that's incredible. Well done, Seamus. That's brilliant.
In the first week or two of my campaign, I think 3,400 people got reconnected and were given a chance to sign up to the Household Budget Plan. So for anybody out there that says there's not enough people in Ireland to stand together, we call that the power of one. At Watson Me, it was just one Irish person, as far as I'm concerned, that had enough. And that was the start of me actually standing up and seeing what we could achieve. And basically, at the time, 2010, it took me, as I say, 9 months to pay my bill, but I got it paid, so I started helping other people. I started a group called Life After Debts, the EBT, to help people cope with their financial stresses and strains. And for the last 18 months, I was getting about 30 people a day contacting me.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I represent a good few people in court. I go into court. It's all free, by the way. I don't charge. I'm not qualified. As far as I'm concerned, I don't charge anybody any money. I write a lot of letters to third-party debt collectors and things like that for people. And we've been having great success. And as I said to you, my friend, all the time I was trying to get back into business, get my life back running, and the 16th of August 2012, I got a notice in the post to say I was being executed from my property. I got an execution order.
So just going back, so you lost your business just because of an EU directive to say that you cannot do any more turf cutting.
Work. Yes, that's right.
So, and this was from the Green Party, was it?
Well, it was John Gormley that signed it. I think it was probably there from before his time. But actually it was John Gormley, as far as I'm concerned anyway, it was John Gormley that signed it into law. My bog was shut, and I was to get compensation. I never got it. And my bog is lying idle there now, and 95% of my income was taken away with a swipe of a biro. I have 5 children. I was trying to support them, support myself, and I just found it very difficult. I had a lot of creditors demanding money. I tried to sit down with them all. We worked out plans. But at the time, my whole livelihood was taken away, literally, only for I'm self-producing my own food. I would have literally starved to death. So, I just, you know what I mean? It was one of those places where I found myself in a desperate situation, through no fault of my own as far as I'm concerned. And it took me nearly 3 years to get back on my feet. My son got a job. He started farming the bit of land we have. And we just got back on our feet and paid off our bills first before we done anything for ourselves. And we're still at it, and we're still fighting our corner, and we're getting there. So all I can say to your listeners out there, please, as dark as the hour might look, as dark as the morning might look when you wake up and you find you have no money, it is possible to get through it. I'm living proof of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair play to Seamus. That's it's fantastic that you've turned the corner. But the problem that you have now, and we actually know about John Gormley, or John Gormless as we refer to him here at OYM, because we've had issues with when he signed in the actual one of the traffic laws about commercial vans and stuff. We've talked about that before.
Right, yeah, that's right.
But so we don't have time for the guy. We really don't have time for the guy or the Green Party because he was involved with them. But what talk about your current situation with the eviction and what the banks are trying to do.
Well, I mean, for a couple of years I could pay nothing, as you can appreciate. My whole income was gone. I went to the bank and said, look, my income is gone, but they've promised me compensation. So that went on for a couple of years. There was no sign of the compensation coming. They started bringing me to court. I defended myself in court, but eventually, reluctantly, the judge gave them their orders that they looked for, because basically I wasn't back up and running on my feet. But 14 months ago, myself and my son got together. We put a rescue package together. We lodged a 5-figure sum, which is over 10,000, with the family solicitor. We told him to go to the bank, lodge that, and we give them at the minimum of the same amount every year until the mortgage was cleared full and final. We asked for no write-down, no special deal. And to our dismay, the bank said no, they'd sooner take the property. This was going towing back. We were arguing with them. And the 16th of August, I got an execution order in the post, which said I was going to be executed without further notice from the property. So I sat down with my 5 children, and we discussed it for about 15 minutes, and we decided we'd make a stand. We barricaded our entrance. I rang some friends and neighbours, and that's 73 days ago, and we're still here.
Fantastic. Steve?
Yeah, Seamus, just to clarify, I mean, just in case anyone listening may be under some illusion that you're not paying or you're refusing to pay.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
You've put money in the bank.
We lodged the money up front, actually. We actually lodged the money up front. We put our money where our mouth was. My son had some livestock on the farm. We actually went to the market and we sold all the livestock. We got the checks and we lodged them with the family solicitor. It's more than 10, it's between 10 and 20,000, and the solicitor guaranteed the bank at the minimum of the same amount every year until the mortgage was paid in full and final. We asked for no write-down, we asked for no interest freeze, and the bank said no, we'd sooner take the property. So that's the position we're at. I thought they changed their mind, and as I repeat myself, on the 16th of August, I got probably the most shocking piece of paper I've ever gotten in an envelope. It was just 2 lines, and it said, you will be executed from your property without further notice.
Can you mention the bank? Can we name and shame who the bank is?
Well, it's Bank of Scotland. It's Bank of Scotland. I mean, I have no problem mentioning them. I think they've been mentioned. It's Bank of Scotland. They have no interest in dealing with me. As far as they're concerned, they want out. I can't give them out at the moment because I can't come up with all the money together. I have agreed to pay it over a number of years. Basically, there'll be 10 years left on my mortgage anyway. I took it out 10 years ago. All they have to do is extend my mortgage, I reckon, by about 7 years, 8 years, and it'll be paid in full. And if the bank don't want that, I'm sorry for them. I've always stood up for people that wanted to pay their way with life after death, as you know. I never went to the ESB and asked them to write off people's bills. I said, look, I'll help people cope and pay you. Let it take however long. And I said the same to the bank. I just needed more time, but unfortunately the bank decided differently. And at the moment we're here. We're 73 days here, and we're staying here. As I speak to you now, there's 8 or 9 people protecting my main entrance. There'll be another 8 or 9 coming every single day for 73 days, 24 hours a day. We have people here all the time. We've been donated unbelievable amounts of gifts, a log cabin to sleep the guys at night, 2 security cabins, security radios, lighting, CCTV. It's all been donated. Power, electric power, donated from neighbours. Food, continuously a supply of food being donated. So I just have to say to the Irish people, you know, the old Irish used to be talking about the fight that was in the old Irish and that was dead and gone. It's not gone. It's alive and well in County Limerick.
Fantastic. Well, that's brilliant.
I was going to say, so Seamus, what you're doing, I mean, as much as you're doing this for yourself and your family, you're also taking a stand for every other Irish man and woman in this land.
I am, yes, because in the last 7 months or 8 months, 9 people had come to me that had received orders, and all 9 had voluntarily handed back the keys to their home. Now, and that really, I found that very hard to cope. I pleaded with those families to stay in their home, barricade the door, and they told me they weren't able, mentally, physically. Every one of them had a different reason. I understand that, and I appreciate that. But when it came to my turn, there was no doubt in my mind I was going to make a stand, because the simple reason is, guys, we have nowhere to go.
Yeah,
I have nowhere to go.
That's what I can't understand, Seamus. You know, the banks are doing this. You can understand why they want your property, because the money didn't exist in the first place. I'm sure you know that. Now,
I understand all that, yeah.
One of the guys here on our chat facility, Crown Copyright, has said here that a refusal to accept payment discharges the debt. Now, I'm sure you spoke to some of the sovereign guys about this.
Oh, I did, yes. But, I mean, I'm still discussing all that with guys, but at the end of the day, we're here to protect this property. The sheriff and his men are not, and I repeat, are not going to evict me and my children off our farm for two reasons. One, it's morally wrong. And two, we have paid our money and we want to pay more. Now, some people think I've paid more than enough already. That's their opinion. We have put out a payment schedule and we're going to stick to it and we're going to make them do it because it's time to say no. I mean, a lot of people don't understand one thing. The most powerful word in the alphabet is N-O. Those two letters are the most powerful letters because when you say no, the powers of be do not know how to handle you. And that's what I find. I don't engage with them. I just say, no, I'm not leaving. And I leave it at that. And that's why I think we're still here 73 days on.
What about your local MP? Has he been involved?
No, none of the TDs, actually, none of the TDs from my constituency or any of the adjoining constituencies have even picked up the phone and rang to see how my children are.
Well,
my children are 73 days under the threat of an execution order, and nobody, no political TD has rang here and see how they are.
Well, I hope all the people in Limerick hear this. And when it comes to voting and they knock on the door, they stick up the two fingers at the TDs and tell them to get lost. Steve?
Well, I mean, it's ironic that we're having a children's referendum on the 10th of November and every TD in the country is talking about for the good of the children, vote yes. Well, I'd like to ask the TDs listening to this programme or wherever they are, what about my 5 children? Do they exist? Do they count? Because not one of them have picked up the phone to see did they need anything, are they okay to get to school, how are they suffering, how are they getting on, not one of them. And I think that's a shocking indictment on the people that are claiming to be running our country.
That's incredible. Steve?
Seamus, in the past 73 days since you've been basically barricaded into your own home, have any of the sheriff or any other parties come back? And if so, what's happened? Have they been intimidating you or what's the situation?
No party has approached us in any shape or form. Absolutely not. Absolutely no contact.
But obviously they're watching the situation and obviously...
I'd imagine so. I mean, on Garda Síochána would be passing regularly now. They'd be passing anywhere. It's nice to see them actually driving around the countryside in West Limerick, keeping an eye on the older folks and that. They do be passing. They don't stop. They don't slow down. So I presume we're being monitored. But as I say, this is very peaceful. It will always be peaceful. We are just going to say no. And they're going to have to physically beat me and my 5 children to get us off the property. That's the only way for them. We've made that quite clear. We will not fight back. We will have to take a beating if that's what it takes.
It's just incredible. I mean, we've already seen the likes of Ben Gilroy helping somebody in Dundalk regarding an eviction, and the police standing there like bouncers, like the hired thugs for the government, and they should be there in a passive manner, just watching and observing and to keep the peace, not blocking the doorway to stop people going in and out. And this is what we keep saying about, the police. They shouldn't be involved. They're hired by the bankers. Who's in charge of the police to actually get the police to work for the banks when this is a civil matter and not a criminal matter?
Well, yes, you're right. And as far as I'm concerned, the Gardaí should come out here just to protect the sheriff. That's, as far as I'm concerned, their key role would be to come out to make sure that nobody physically assaults the sheriff. And I could accept that. But I can assure you, we will not accept the Gardaí helping the sheriff to throw me or my children off the property. We have CCTV set up all over, and we have a lot of neighbours and friends, and we're just going to link arms. We're not going to be violent. There'll be absolutely no violence. I can guarantee people, if they want to come down and help us, there'll be absolutely no violence. And we're going to hold each other's arms, and we're not moving. And remember one thing, guys. They can throw me off the property, but they won't keep me off the property. This is a small farm, but there's lots of ways back into the farm, and all my neighbours joining me tell me that if they have to run in, they will. So if they want to come on and try it, they can come on and try it, but I can assure them now we are making a stand for the people of Ireland here. And actually, a lot of people outside of Ireland have contacted me, people that have left their homes, had to leave Ireland. The amount of goodwill we're getting from Australia, England, and the States at the moment is unbelievable.
Well, that's
absolutely unbelievable.
Well, that's brilliant. I mean, you know what you say, Seamus, the trouble only starts when the police arrive.
Yes.
And
I can assure you guys, this will be peaceful. Nobody's going to hurt a hair on the head of my daughters. My youngest girl is 13. She actually celebrated her birthday here 2 weeks ago on the farm with us, behind the bales of silage, behind the barricade. That's the best we could do for the moment because I can't leave the home, I can't leave the farm. So we're getting on the best we can. They're in very good spirits. because, guys, they believe in what we're doing. Because every day they come home from school, there's new faces there to stand and welcome them home. And that means a lot. And I think, if nothing else, it's shown them that the old Ireland isn't dead and gone. It's still alive and very much alive.
Well, sorry, Steve.
Seamus, you say your youngest there is 13. What's her understanding of what's going on? Is she well clued in on exactly what's happening? Or?
She is, because I tell you, for the last 2 years, when I started Life After Death, the amount of times that strangers have come into our kitchen at night with a big envelope of bills and demand letters, and she'd sit there watching telly, and I'd put people's lives back together in front of her eyes. And when I told her what was happening, she said, Dad, you know we're going to stand, and we're going to stand beside you, because, Dad, you've helped so many other people. Now we're going to help ourselves. And when you have children of 13 standing beside you saying that, it'll take more than a sheriff to rock us, I can assure you of that.
Well, that is so positive, and hearing that, all the support, and we will do what we can, Seamus, and we'll get updates from you, and maybe ring you, get you on, even if it's 24.
Yes, anytime, guys. And can I just say, guys, thanks a million for the support. Every bit of media is so helpful, because, guys, this is going on 10 weeks, and every week we try to get a bit into the media to let people see we're still here, and we're going to stay here. If the sheriff wants to stand back and let us here, we're going to stay here. We will. And I repeat, we will have Christmas dinner at the gate. 3 neighbours have already offered to cook it for us. So we're not budging. We're staying for the good of ourselves and the people of Ireland.
Well, that's brilliant. Seamus, you have our full support. And I think what we'll do is we'll do a regular update with you every now and again, even if it's only for 10 or 15 minutes, just to get an update on what's going on, because we want to get this information out to our listeners globally, to let them know what's going on over here in Ireland and what's happening, and what the government, what the banks and what the police are up to, because I think it's disgusting that, people are taken out of their houses by the banking system when they caused the bloody problem in the first place.
That's right, yes. And can I just say, guys, to anybody, can I open a big welcome to anybody listening that wants to come down, including yourselves. Anybody that has come here has promised they'll come back. A lot of people come down skeptical and say, okay, I want to know what's the real story here. We show them the real story. We live in a very basic house where it's a 1950s farmhouse. We don't even have central heating, but we're very proud of our home. It's our home, and we want to pay for it first before we do it up. There's no hidden agenda here, guys. This is right from wrong, and anybody that comes feels that they're helping to put a wrong right. And just that's what I'd like to say to people. Anyone that can come down even for a day, more than welcome. We have a log cabin here that sleeps 12, so if anyone wants to come down for a night or two, bring the sleeping bag and you're more than welcome.
That's brilliant.
Seamus, you said that people have been generous in donating whatever it happens to be that you need. At this moment in time, or say going forward, is there anything else that you may need?
Well, I tell you guys, we have accommodation, we have power. Maybe anyone that's passing a bit of bread or something like that, a bit of food to feed the guys at the gate. That's what I find. We accept food, and there's only 2 things we don't accept, guys: money or alcohol. And I think everyone can understand why.
Yeah.
We don't accept either. Everybody is struggling themselves, believe me, and we produce all our own food. But if anyone is passing, a lot of people send on a few. I'll tell you what a lot of guys have done: sent on maybe 1 or 2 vouchers from some of the supermarkets for a £5 even. It makes a big difference to us, guys. It means the children can go in with someone once a week and get, bits and pieces. And that's the only thing. If anyone wants to do that, we'll accept that, and we'll take it with a heart and a half, because it's the guys at the gate that's there at 3 o'clock in the morning that I like to be able to bring out fresh sandwiches to, and whatever, things like that, to feed the guys that's good enough to give me their time. All these guys and women are fantastic. We've had a lot of people down from Dublin. We've had people from every county in Ireland, guys. Every county in Ireland has been here.
Well, I'll tell you, Seamus, that's fantastic. We're going to let you go now, Seamus. But listen, thanks a lot for coming on.
Okay.
Much appreciated. Okay. Well done on what you're doing, and may you keep it going, Steve.
Yeah, Seamus, I think we are going to go to a break. But before we do, can we give you the last word?
Yes, the last word is no. Just keep saying no, guys, to the system we're in, and we will change it.
Okay, so we have to do that. And obviously, your story is also in the One World Chronicle magazine.
That's right.
We're going to be talking to Simon about that shortly. Seamus, just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to go to a musical break. We'll be back after this.
Okay.
You predicted what the dot-com bubble before it happened, the real estate bubble and the crash before it happened.
He predicted the stock market crash of 1987.
One World Chronicle and Celtic Gold are proud to present the #1 trends forecaster, Gerald Celente. November the 6th, Dublin, the Gibson Hotel. For further information and tickets, go to oneworldchronicle.com or celticgold.eu.
And we're back. That was a little bit of the Rolling Stones and the Satisfaction, a great song from the 70s.
Very encouraging for Seamus and what he's doing. Fair play to him. Now, we were supposed to have Simon on from One World Chronicle, and there's no sign of Simon on Skype, and we're supposed to have Dave on. And there's a text message coming in now, and Dave's not around either. What is it with these newspaper people? Can they not organise their time?
Well, maybe they're hot on the heels of a story. I don't know. I mean, yeah, we've got a few minutes left. We've got 20 minutes left. 20 minutes to fill. I'm sure that won't be a problem. So we'll keep on trying for the lads anyway, for Dave and for Simon. But I mean, if not, I mean, we're not going to be short of anything, as Alan has said. We do have copies here in front of us of the One World Chronicle, and we also have the latest issue of the Sov Indo as well, and both are in beautiful 3D Technicolor. And I'm just actually looking at the One World Chronicle here now at the moment. It's I mean, for the first edition, it's jam packed with information. It really is, and they are talking about there's Alan's phone going there. They are talking about the children's referendum. So there's a lot of good information in there, and also in the Sov Indo, they're also covering the upcoming referendum as well. And there are also more information in relation to the Gerald Celente. That's the one-eyed only in Dublin on the 6th. He's going to be covering currency wars, destruction of middle class wealth, and also gold and silver. It's limited spaces available, it says, so get your tickets. Anyone wondering about the prices, discounted prices for tickets are €25 online, €30 at the door. And if you are a VIP, if you are a very important person, it's going to cost you €60 to get in, so you're better off going as a regular Joe. Don't go as a VIP, just in case, because it will cost you twice the price.
But we have, the new version of the Sovereign Independent available now, and the One World Chronicle. And as Steve said, the bumper sticker campaign is actually in the Sovereign Independent. It's mentioned in there. So, again, I know funds are very tight for people, but what we'd like to do is have a national campaign of people having stickers on the car with "I'm awake." So when you see the sticker on somebody's car, you can say, right, okay, they're awake. I can talk to them about things, and they know what's going on. That's the whole idea. Or if you have it on your car and people come up and say, what's that all about? You can educate them. That's the general idea.
Yeah, because I mean, as we did say before, there's nothing worse than, say, being awake and kind of being clued into what's going on in a small village or a small community. Because, I mean, not everyone lives in the capital and in Dublin city centre. So, I mean, there are kind of remote little villages where people are awake, they are kind of questioning the system. And when they mention it to friends and family and relatives, they're kind of getting shunned and called conspiracy theorists. So, the kind of thought process behind the bumper sticker is, if you may see somebody driving down the road, or one of a friend or a family member, or someone just, who you happen to be passing, and if they have the sticker, then you'll kind of know that they're on the same wavelength of you, and that they are awake, maybe not completely awake, but they're awake to some degree. So, it might just work. We're kind of, I'm proudly supporting mine, and as is Alan, and a lot of other people as well.
Well, it was James that kind of noticed the cars with the stickers on the back. That's what really kind of got him thinking about it. And then he obviously did the research and found out that was us that kind of sorted it out and did it initially. So if James seen it and thought it was a great idea, then other people will hopefully see it and think the same thing. So that's the general idea. Now, my phone is going mad here at the moment.
It is.
With text messages coming in. So, Steve, if you want to just do an update on about that, we have them on the site, and people can go and purchase them, where they can find them. And obviously, great that the player's working as well. You know, it's great that the new player's working.
Right, so you want me to tell people all that you've just told them? Right, okay. The new player on the website as well. Yeah, we welcome some feedback. We do have some we have a kind of a back end here in the studio, so we do know that a lot of you have been listening on the new player. The numbers have they come in low, but they've gone up, so there are a lot of people listening on the new player. We welcome any feedback because as far as I'm aware, the quality of that new stream should be, I think it's higher, if memory serves, than what the Ustream was. So we welcome some feedback on that, and also no ads. We just a message in from Simon. Simon will be with us in about 5 minutes' time. And yes, the One World Chronicle and the Sov Indo, you can purchase them directly from us here, just by going to the website. You can navigate your way, as I always say, to the website, and you will see there will be something there emblazoned somewhere on the page where you can click and buy the latest copy of the Chronicle or the Indo. That's it. Yeah, I think that's. I know it's a One World Chronicle, but yeah, the Chronicle. That's how I shall fondly refer to it.
The Chronicle.
And as I say, for issue number 1, it is the price on it where sold. It says €1. But I mean, it is absolutely packed to the gills, packed from the front page to the back page, with brilliant information. I say there's none of your BS, as we say, that you will read in other papers, and there's none of this, celebrity tittle that's going on that passes for news and fills up pages and pages of so-called newspapers. I mean, the One World Chronicle and the Sov Indo, it's news. It's the news that is news. It's it's not BS. There's no crap in it.
No, it's all good information, and support the guys, buy the magazines, buy the newspaper, support the guys, get the information out there, wake up people, because we need to get the information out. It's great that we have two papers now that we have in Ireland that actually tell people about what's really going on. Plus, the increase in the media interest as well, which is, media sites. More websites are coming online, more radio stations are coming online, which is fantastic. So, I just said it to somebody the other day that, if you just go back 4 years, Steve, you probably didn't have half of what the sites and stuff that's out there
now.
Didn't. So, it's just this seems to be a constant.
Well, that is testament, when you look at it, that people are starting to waken up. They are starting to wake up. They are starting to question the so-called system. They're not happy with the system. So, they're doing what they can. Obviously, not everyone can start their own newspaper. But, baby steps. That's how we started here. We started with two guys, a Ustream channel, and a karaoke microphone. But, that was a seed. We just knew that we wanted to share information, and we started it, just as a kind of, will it work? It may or it may not, but it's all we really knew how to do at the time, and it's kind of blossomed and grown into what it is today. But yeah, there's the Sovereign Independent and the New World Chronicle, the One World Chronicle. Sorry, they should be on shelves. They should be in the supermarkets, in the local garages. They should be everywhere when you think about it, because that's the real news. That's people will pick up the likes of the Herald and the Press and the this, that, and the other, and they believe what they read to be the news. But these two papers that I hold in my hand here, this is what's not in those. This is what people need to read. If they want to read the likes of the news of the world or the news of this, that, and the other, read that as well. But I think these should be on the stands, the Sov Indo and the One World Chronicle, to get a balanced view. Because if you haven't got one of these, then you're not getting the balanced view of the news.
Exactly.
Have I wasted enough time? Have I?
No, you've talked about everything there, which is really good. And there was let me see, Odin Walthunt on the chat facility just said, can we plug Critical Mass Radio UK conference meeting on the 24th of November 2012, Manchester? Rob Freeman, we need it to be successful as we can. Cheers, guys. Okay, so Critical Mass Radio UK conference meeting on the 24th of November 2012. So support the radio stations, obviously in the UK, and all other radio stations, not just OYM, but TNS Radio, Liffey Sound FM. I think they're on the web as well as live, the community station down in Dublin. Mick is the chap that runs the show down there, and he has a very interesting show. He gets people on and talk about, what we talk about, basically. And it's quite interesting there, so you can tune in.
Yeah, and I think Mick is live for anyone who's in the Lucan or surrounding area, Mick is live every Monday evening from 9 p.m. Exactly. And it's, we heard the show there last week, and a brilliant show.
Exactly, very good, very good. So give a quick plug to Mick there. Now, just on next week's guest, just to have a chat about that. Okay, you okay there, Steve?
Yes, I'm just having a moment.
You're having a moment, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, next week's guest is James Wright, who's an ex-Mason, who's going to be on. That's going to be quite interesting. So, we've been talking about all things, his experience, what he's seen, what he came across. So that's going to be interesting getting ex-Mason on. I think he's American, actually. So we'll be getting him on. Luckily we have him on next week, and this week we'd have a time zone issue. But, now, do we have Simon there?
Wait, you want to turn that little thing up there?
Yeah, that's up there, yeah.
Oh, it's up, is it?
Yeah, it's up. Simon, are you there? We've no audio for you, Simon, if you're there. We're not getting you there. Oh!
Is that the sound of a microphone being plugged in?
I think it is. Simon?
Simon?
Come in, Simon. I feel like a seance going on. Come in, Simon, are you there? Okay, we'll let Simon sort out his microphone there. I'm sure he can probably hear us, but he just has to sort it out there. We have a few minutes to go. Simon is obviously with One World Chronicle, and he wanted to come on to have a quick chat about the magazine being released, issue 1. So I don't know whether Simon's still having a problem with his microphone there.
Hear me now?
Yeah, you're very low, Simon.
Okay, just bear with me.
Just bring your microphone up there if you can.
The beauties of live radio.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. He's still playing with the sound there. Right, okay. So thanks for everybody who has donated to OYM. Thanks a lot. We are trying to raise funds for a couple of things at the moment. Obviously, we have expenses to pay as well. So if you can donate, go ahead and donate. That'd be fantastic. If you can't, if you see an advert on our site that you like, just click on that, and that raises a few cents to us. And everything helps. 1 or 2 clicks. Don't go click bombing mad, because we'll only get banned. But the odd click now and again would be fantastic. And that money comes to us. And we can use it for getting stuff for the studio or things that we need to do. So if you can do that, that'd be great. If you have any stories about your bank, email them into us and let us know, will you? If you have a local bank, no matter what the bank it is, if there's any things you notice, just email us and let us know. We'd be happy to read them out, because the banks are getting very cocky these days. They just don't seem to care anymore. Customer service is non-existent as far as I'm concerned, in my experience anyway. So I don't know about you, Steve, whether you've been in the bank and experienced the same thing.
No, my last experience in the bank was basically I went in, I was owed a few bob, not a lot of money, but I think it was like 50 euro or something, and I went into a check. No, I didn't. I went into a bank with a check. I went into a bank with a check, and I asked them, I said, my good lady, could you give me the euro value of this back, please? And she looked at me and said, have you got an account here? And I said, no, I don't. Well, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. And I says, but I don't need an account. I think it was Bank of Ireland. Your Bank of Ireland, that's a Bank of Ireland piece of paper. So, that's yours. Can you just take that back and give me the euro equivalent? No, you'll have to open an account. I said, but I don't want an account.
And you'll get charged as well.
Yeah. So, you know what, there was people behind me in the queue. I was actually thinking of Hardy Week people. I was thinking, do you know what, I could have a lot of fun here. But I had people waiting out in the car, so I just turned around and walked away. I said, thank you you're not very helpful. And, well, she wasn't. I just wanted to let her know that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I really was tempted to have Marcus's book on me in that queue, because there's a massive queue, and I'm just turning around.
How the banks are screwing you and what you can do about it.
And you can buy it from the OYM website, and it supports OYM as well.
So you wanted to sell it in the bank, did you?
Oh, just wanted to show everybody in the queue and say, right people, see this book, this is what the banks are doing to us. They're screwing us, and you can buy this book and learn all about it, because the customer service is getting terrible. And that's really what they're doing. Now, I don't know whether, Simon, are you there now?
I am, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Okay, you are quiet. Let me just turn you up here. Right, Simon, we have 3 minutes. So tell us all about the One World Chronicle.
Yeah, we've just recently launched the first edition of One World Chronicle, and we want to say a really big thanks to everybody. The amount of people that contacted us for distribution. We've got rid of nearly all of them now. We just have about I think about 1,000 left, and we've managed to get them into a number of shops. We'll be putting it up on the website probably tomorrow, where people can go in and buy a copy. And if anybody lives near any of these shops, they're kind of spread out. There's some in Cork and some kind of Tullamore and other places, but we'll put them on the website tomorrow, and we're getting more and more kind of emails all the time. But if people can actually go into the shop and buy a copy, for €1 to kind of help us in the sense that the shops will take them again if they're going to sell them.
Simon, what was the shop's reaction when you went in with them?
It wasn't actually myself. I think Ian went round, and Peter in Cork went round, and it's been quite positive. Like it depends on the shop. We're kind of going after smaller, kind of independent retailers. Obviously, we're not trying to get into Eason's just yet. But obviously, we're just asking them, look, can you put it on your shelf? Can you put it on your counter and sell it? Explain the situation. I think a lot of people kind of, the shops kind of realise what's going on, and they kind of have a flick through and seem fine. But Ian would know more, being the one going in, so. And
also, Simon, you need distributors, I believe, for the magazine.
Yeah, well, we do, but we've a lot of people have contacted us, and really over this weekend now we've got a ton of emails. But please, people keep emailing us. We might actually print more of this first issue because they are going so well, and we kind of put them out as a trial. The first issue is to kind of see how they go. It's full colour. It's 20 pages, some brilliant articles in it, and it was kind of a test to see. Again, like we've done with anything, again, we all pooled our money into this, and we got a couple of adverts in it, but mainly we were putting our own money in to see if we could make it successful, and as long as it is, we'll continue it on, and hopefully the next issue then it'll be self-sustaining from then on. Like anything, it's not a profit-making exercise. We're obviously. We're always under money, but it's a case that we believe in the information, believe in the stuff needs to be put out. So we'll continue it as long as people are buying it and people want to see it. But we've had an amazing response. But do email, you can email editor@oneworldchronicle.com to get some issues if you want to buy bulk and put them out yourself, or if you just want one copy. We're going to try and set up something on the website so that people can just order one or two as well. Like we did for Sovereign Independence. And again, if you're looking for, I think all the Sovereign Independence, I think 20,000 of them are gone already, believe it or not. It's amazing. But again, if people are looking for them, editor at sovereignindependent.com will get you in contact with Dave for those ones.
Brilliant. All right, Simon, we'll let you go because we're going to be finishing up now.
Yeah, no worries. I thought it was actually 9 lads that you just wanted me on. I was just out and about, so and Jay just rang me there when I just got in, so sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. All right, Simon, we'll catch you again. Cheers for that. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. No okay, so that's Simon from One World Chronicle, just giving us an update on the magazine, getting it out there into shops and promoting it, and obviously the Sovereign Independent is available as well. Issue 6 is available just before the referendum. I believe issue 6 is free as well, if you can get your hands on a copy. As you say, all donations, I know we sell it on the site, but all donations go towards OYM, so it's a big help if you can do that. But that's really it. That's the show in the bag. As I say, next week we have James Wright on, who's an ex-Mason, and that'll be interesting. If you come across anything during the week, we will be watching out for Hurricane Sandy, see what happens, and see what happens with Obama and all that kind of stuff, so it's going to be quite interesting. Steve, anything else to say add to that? No,
I've nothing to say, nothing to add to that. Only it's been an interesting show. As I say, the 2 copies that I have in my well, they're beside me now, One World Chronicle and the latest of Sovereign Independent, they are well worth getting, and I urge everyone. I mean, the cover price it's pocket change. It really is. So I urge everyone to get a copy if you can. And as the lads have always said on the bottom of the saw window, they say, please recycle this paper by passing it on to someone else to read. So don't chuck in the bin, pass it on to someone else. So other than that, now I shall just will I say goodnight first for a change?
Go ahead.
Right, okay.
Go man.
Here's our first. Okay, I'll say goodnight to everyone, and we wish you all a great week, and we'll do it again next week. So good night from Steve and George.
And good night, fella Alan James, and we meet up. We'll talk to you next week. Stay safe. Bye bye.
Open your mind.